Okay, good evening, all the panelists here.
Yeah, good
and
evening to
all
you.
the attendees. It's lovely to see you all. I think this is made possible with this virtual connect, and I'm really happy to bring this opportunity to the VT industry. I welcome you all again to this first of its kind vertical transportation industry event, which is both a business conclave come expo. We had a fantastic start the morning, and we have already completed 2 panel discussions and a presentation, and we had a good response for that. And parallelly, there is an exhibition running. So people have been very, very enthusiastically attending that from across the world. So I think the objective of doing something like this is really coming true. So I'm really, really, happy and to have this support from the industry. So our next panel discussion is on importance of project management from vertical transportation point of view. And, I am really, really honored to have all these panel members here who are industry leaders and, of course, eminent speakers too. So let me take this opportunity to, introduce each one of you to the attendees. So I will start with Mr. Satish Bhujbal. Mr. Bhujbal retired from Kalpataru Limited as Director of Projects after working for 22 years. He's a graduate in civil engineering with a postgraduate degree in law and economics. Before joining Kalpataru, he worked for 20 years on 5-star hotels, hospitals, township, commercial complexes and sports stadiums, etc. in the Middle East, Europe and Southeast Asia. He has addressed many international seminars on various subjects in construction, management and environment. Currently, he is on the panel of jury for the annual construction award given by the associations like ICI, BAI, AESA, and the panel advisor for Engineering and Management Institute. Sir, it is really an honor for us, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Moving on, Mr. Vikraman, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Pillai is the Senior VP Projects at Lokhandwala Infrastructure Limited, and also he's the Director of Projects at Lokhandwala Kataria Constructions. He holds a MS in Civil Engineering and an MBA specialized in Operation Management. He has received a Certificate of Excellence issued by Saudi Aramco for outstanding performance and contribution on DUD maintenance contract for effective project management. He is a senior level professional in the construction industry with over 29 years of experience in construction management, project management, licensed for all sorts of project approvals, mainly with real estate developers. His overall responsibility is to execute various premium redevelopment projects in South Mumbai. Once again, welcome to you, sir. Moving on, let me introduce Mr. Amit Maitra. He's the founder, partner, and managing director at Lurch Bates Private Limited, India. He's a mechanical engineer from Manchester, UK. He began his career in the automobile industry in the early 70s in overseas and in India, where he attained very senior responsible positions. He then entered the elevator industry in the late 80s and grew to hold senior positions in a leading elevator company. He has over 32 years of experience in the elevator industry. He has been involved and responsible for handling many large signature projects in the new equipment and service modernization segments all across the India. So it's a pleasure to have you here, sir.
Thank you, Anika.
And last not the least, our panelist, Mr. Jatin Shah. Jatin is always a pleasure to have for the panel discussions. He's the managing director of the Technical Due Diligence Division of Colliers. He's an architect with a master's in building engineering and management from SBA Delhi. He's a real estate professional with over 18 years of experience in India and has managed the entire aspect of the project lifecycle development in multiple projects, handling design, procurement, cost, and overall development. Thank you to all of you. But before we start, let me introduce our panelist, Mr. Uday Kulkarni. I'm sure all of you know him and industry also knows him. He's a very tall leader in the elevator industry, but he retired as the president of Schindler India and South Asia. He has 30 years of experience in the elevator industry. He's also the recipient of Schindler Global Lifetime Achievement Award in 2019. And post his retirement, he started a new venture, Utopias, which is in the field of coaching, mentoring, training, and consultancy. Over to you, Uday, and let's have a wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita, and good evening to everybody.
So I will not, Anita has already introduced each one of us in detail. So I straight away go to what I am supposed to do. So our opening batsman for today is Mr. Pillai. So the first question to Mr. Pillai is this. In my opinion, elevator is a project, not a product. Rather, I would say the project execution stage, it can be considered as a marriage between the developer and the elevator supplier. What is your take on this? What do you think should be the top 3 priorities for optimum project performance or output?
First of all, good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for the forum opportunity. See, this is really covering up a lot of things. My take on this, basically, I like to brief an introduction saying the high-rise buildings are on the increase of fulfill the housing demands with the increased modern outlook to mankind. The latest generation elevators not only meet the basic objective of people flow in the building, but also offer aesthetics, safe working mechanism, and other special features to meet the expectations of the urban users. When we see our day-to-day life, we are dependent on some mode of transportations, maybe on the road, maybe air, wherever. So when it comes to the building, the vertical transportation is the backbone of the building. During the construction stage, see, when you say that during the construction stage as well as after the construction, there is a lot of coordinations we required for the proper implementation of the projects from the design to handing over the projects. So construction of the building in the beginning, planning stage itself, we need to involve a proper study of the elevators requirement with respect to the occupation of the building and the transportation traffic study, etc., etc. So you can derive the sizes of the vertical transportation construction of the vertical shaft, number of shaft, sizes of the elevators, all that goes into the building design stage itself. So we need an expert facilitating all the details, calculating based on the statutory norms and the traffic study analysis done and the product performance at what level it is going to work. All that has to happen. Sorry for my interruptions. Sorry for my interruption.
No problem. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was trying to explain the design stage involvement for the building. Architect has to design the building aesthetically and performance level as per the client requirement and the site conditions. So elevator become one of the major facility for the building that has to be taken care of. So architect has to get some input from the technical backup, who will in turn say, yes, this building has got so much occupation and we need to uh, get these kind of elevators by size and number of elevators. So that become very essential. Now, you also ask about 3 priorities for an optimum project performance level. So when it comes to design, construction, the second stage of construction itself, there is a lot of challenges. We cannot ignore this vertical transportation or its requirement for installation, how we maintain the construction verticality. For the building, of course, we do a dedicated team getting engaged for the verticality, that is line and level. So the shaft also, we should be accurately maintained. The total height of the building, verticality may be within the limit of 25 mm or 50 mm, whatever. Otherwise, the execution is going to be heavier or a different level of cost involvement. Thereafter, also the priorities that you are mentioning uh, for the performance and the or the output, project output. You see the coordination between various agencies, because we do the construction of building and we expect these elevators will come in from the sky and get start operations. It never happens like that. There is an industry and the design involvement, technical, productions and transportation, lot many things involved. So a detailed planning for the production stage, transportation and execution. What are the time required? When the execution start at site, what are the complexity that the elevators associated finishing work, electrical requirement, many other things what is required should be get complemented by other agencies. So the coordination between the agencies to facilitate delivery of installation in time is very, very essential. So it is, I think, one of the major concern that we all look at the project. Optimization of the delivery time and smooth operations before delivering the elevators. Also, the product performance. The product performance during the construction, from maintenance point of view, we need to ensure the backup supply as well as the statutory compliance of getting things audited in regular time, and the building occupants are comfortable with the waiting period, also the maintenance done in time, etc. So that is for the maintenance, the product that we are using. So today we are getting a technology upgraded products like destination control, so that the waiting time get reduced and all that is incorporated. So the priority for optimizing the construction and delivery coordination is one of the main area that we need to focus, and understanding the elevators company's requirement properly by the project manager from the site and supporting them. Okay, because we all got a story that elevator is one item that finally the project need to suffer, maybe for the delay or maybe for something else. So the coordination can, the proper planning can avoid such delays in the project.
Yeah, I
Second
think,
area,
go ahead.
yeah. Second area, what I feel, the statutory approvals required, because the project occupation, people comes to stay, the elevators, certification, because almost the project get completed and people are ready to move in. So license to operate, building occupation. So the statutory approvals also become one of the major criteria. The third area, what I feel, see customer complaint, attending in time. Performance of the elevators basically is the major criteria. I feel it is very, very important.
Yeah, okay. So basically, what you said, Mr. Pillai, is planning. We start with planning, the planning between both the agencies, right? Coordination, execution is of utmost importance, and the most important part is the timelines of every activity to be done. So, which means the project manager, whoever is handling, should be one-man show to coordinate everything, to put things in place. So this is what I think we'll discuss a little later on when we are going to other topics of discussion, the same subject. So I will move to Mr. Bhujbal. In the olden times, even today, elevator material to be delivered just in time or elevator storage are always the two areas of discussion, rather hot discussions in most of the project meeting. It is between the project manager and the elevator suppliers and various other agencies involved. They're always fighting. You did not do this right. I did this right. You did not come on time, and so on, so on. So these teams are always fighting on there. And finally, between the developer and elevator manufacturer, what do you think should be done to make these meetings a little less hot and effective in interest of the project? Mr. Bhujbal, your take. I think you need to put it on. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot and good afternoon to everyone. Thanks a lot for inviting me here. Kalpataru was in tall buildings for many years. For instance, 74, we constructed 33-story building and Hitachi elevators were imported. 99, we had Otis imported lifts, which were in Kalpataru Heights. And of course, there are plenty of other tall buildings coming up by many developers in Mumbai. Over years, we always thought and we insisted on just-in-time concept. One of the reasons is that storage space, that you get the material way in advance just for a satisfaction of project manager that yes, I think whenever I require the material is available to me. But we have always believed in just-in-time concept, and also because of frankly a cash flow requirement. Now, of course, lift manufacturers have upfront payment given and all that. They're still there, but still there are recently when there is cash crunch in the industry, there has been talk that can we have at least 30% where machine could be delivered a little later and the payment could be done like that. So in addition to project management consideration, for a developer, other considerations also become important. Simply because it's not just a construction company. As Mr. Pillai has rightly pointed out, the approval process and these, that. In fact, as the project progresses, it could happen that the project gets stalled for no fault of developer. Some rules are changing or something else has happened. If there is an intentional delay, I can understand. I mean, Kalpataru doesn't fall into that bracket. But so we have been sort of always considering just in time. One thing is that in the design stage itself, we involve lift manufacturers' inputs. And sometimes we could go wrong as well. For example, in our own office building, Kalpataru Synergy, instead of having 8 elevators in next to each other in one bank, we had a 4 here and 4 there. Simply because we thought this the entire office plate, if it is not leased out or sold, we could do it half and then the entrance could be from 2 sides. Now, the business picked up well that time. I'm talking 2008, 12, and the provision of 4 lifts in one corner and 4 lifts in another corner is bad. Because I think all entire floor plate is dedicated, or more than one floor plate is dedicated to one office. So on one side, the entrance is there. So this side lifts, 4 lifts are being used for 70% and other lifts are using only 30%. But what I'm trying to say is developer doesn't know all that right in the beginning. So only in his hand is do best at various stages, that's in during design, give maximum number of lifts, type of lifts. For instance, we always in the essential building gave 1 more lift, always 3 lifts. And we didn't wait at 2 lifts, even if lift traffic analysis can show 2 or 2 are more than adequate and all that. We always insisted on giving 3 lifts. Similarly, with the better technology and now National Building Code is also putting various, vertical transportations, floating population and these, that. So I think that's getting more refined, crystallized, and thought is coming, and vertical transportation is lifeline of the tall building, and due consideration is being given by all, because the majority of the buildings are getting tall in Mumbai and even places like Pune. One more thing I would like to point out in addition to what Mr. Pillai said is the maintenance part. The outgoings, particularly in residential buildings, for a smaller height building, say 20-story, 25-story. I know, for instance, Kalpur Residency, out of 3 lifts, 2 lifts were only operational in non-peak hours because the electricity outgoing is quite affluent society. It got number 1, it got ISO for itself, it got number 1 in 12,000 housing societies. But still such society considers that saving electricity, we should only use 2 lifts in normal hours and 3rd lift only in peak hours. AMC is another part, like 4%, 5% of the lift cost every year. Society starts finding it quite tough. Kalpataru has a facility management company as well. So we know that part of that what sort of our project gets completed in say 4 years time, 3 years time, and its lift is used for at least 15 years. If it's reinstalled, another 15 years, new lifts are provided, another 15 years. So all those considerations are required that as if we are using this building and the technology is developing so fast, new lifts are coming. So seeing as far as we can and so try to provide those lifts. And that's why get the materials and I think just in time has been our approach in Kalpataru.
Okay, so basically, Mr. Bujwa, what you're saying is having a clarity right in the beginning makes a lot of difference. And as Mr. Pillai, as well as you're saying, the key is the project manager. If he does his job right, coordinates everything, takes right decisions at the right time, then I think the heartburns are much, much lesser. So this is what I feel. I don't know if anyone has an opinion on this. What do you think, Amit, as a VHT consultant? What do you think about this part? What is your take on that?
Okay. So good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for having me here. And it's a pleasure to be here as well. From a VHT consultant's point of view, I tend to fully agree with what both Mr. Pillai and Mr. Bhujbal have just said. The role of the VHT consultant is to provide maximum value at every stage of the project, right from the concept stage to the handover. Now, the design of the lift systems, the locations of the lifts in the building, the right number of lifts running at the right speed is very, very crucial for a good building. This is where the VHT consultant is expected by the developer to play and his architect to play the role to see that things go smoothly. Thereafter, we move into the procurement phase where you write a technical specification tailor-made to the agreed design parameters, and follow that up with the tender and finalization, and you bring a vendor on board. Now, what happens thereafter is the critical part of the whole process. Generally, our experience in the last 15 years has been that with large projects, high-rise buildings, most developers have got either their own in-house engineers or their own project managers. If they don't, then they tend to engage a project management consultant from outside. Now, this guy and his team are the people who play the key role to make sure that everything has to go on stream as per timeline. Where the VHT consultant dovetails into this is to make sure that whatever is the agreed project timeline, the lift company provides a schedule, and this schedule is vetted by the VHT consultant along with the PM, the project management consultant, to make sure that everything is in sync. Once we know it is all in sync, then we should be taking the help of the available project management softwares like Asite or Primavera or Microsoft Project to put in these details so that the monitoring along the way is clear, and thereafter, as far as the actual progress at site goes, this needs to be constantly monitored. In a specialist area like VHT, this needs to be monitored maybe on a fortnightly or a monthly or bi-monthly basis, depending on what the developer wants. And to make sure that red flags are raised well in time, so that course corrective action is taken in time, as a result of which the project timeline does not suffer.
Okay, having talked about this, I would move to Mr. Jatin. Last decade or so, I was involved in many of the infrastructure projects, mostly the airports and some of the metros and all. And most of the customers, right in the tender stage, ask for what Amit mentioned, the Primaveras and the MS projects and stuff like that. So Jatin, you have been kind of handling good projects quantity wise in the southern part of the country. Do you think using Primavera MS projects makes the project manager's life a bit easy, or I don't see that being used in all the projects? Let's say it's a small, I would say not small, but a medium-sized commercial project. People find the cost of Primavera very high because it has to be given to a lot of people. Do you think use of this Primaveras and MS project across the board, given as a very important tool to the project, like Amit was just saying, it is being used. Do you think giving it across the board will make the life easy for the industry in monitoring and of course the education of all the people involved, because many people are not educated on how to use Primavera, so they make a big mess of it. So what is your take on using this as a tool and making everyone's life a bit easy?
Thank you, Mr. Uday, for asking me this question. Privileged to be here with everyone about this topic. Not long before, even in my college, scheduling was assigning. Am I audible?
I think you went off for half a minute. Yeah, probably your net connection maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So not long before, I was mentioning that at college days, we used to make schedules by taking a piece of paper and a pencil and writing tasks and, trying to make Gantt charts or whatever it is, right? But having mentioned about this, a project management software, which is either a Primavera or an MS project, is quite helpful for all of us. From a perspective that we have very large projects now, we have multiple projects now, and unquestionably, we are juggling between allocating resources against various projects which are going around at the same time possible. So how to do that and how to make an accurate usage of the resources, or how to accurately, task them out is what the Primaveras and the MS projects and other scheduling softwares help us a lot. There are distinct advantages in using this software. First of all, the planning becomes a little easier. The person who knows how to make a schedule is able to actually plan it and track it very easily on the software. The tracking I mentioned to you becomes more evolving, as Mr. Amit was also mentioning, that depending on what scale, what project status you are in, where is your material lying, how fast the delivery is going to happen, and do you have the resources for that? You can keep a track and you can keep on evaluating it, and you can keep on modifying the schedule and looking at the critical parts which can be easily generated on the software. So that becomes easy for us to look at those activities. Resource allocation, which is an extremely important point, which gets missed out in most of the schedules which people make, right? What kind of resources are required? What kind of number of teams are required to finish a particular activity? it can be allocated, and accordingly you can plan the deployments as per the requirement. And this becomes very fundamentally very important for lift or an elevator industry, where the teams, the in-house teams are being not kept ideal in one project just because the shafts are not being handed over. And you can juggle those teams based on various projects which are going around in a particular city. That's fundamentally important. Additionally, for a developer today, we can actually put the cost. We can track the cost. Where are we heading to, which is called earned value management. EVMs are an extremely important exercise and it has been there from quite a long time, but it has been not been used or implemented or not categorically being utilized to the extent which it should be. But this kind of, and then today we have option of communication and collaboration of this softwares into something which is called a building BIM models. You can actually virtually create a twin of the building, take up the schedule, take up the site progress, twin the building, and figure out where actually your project is heading. So these are various advantages which using a project management software opens up for all of us as individuals. We can track, we can plan, we can monitor a task. We can figure out which task is getting into critical mode. We can see if there are options to do a parallel reporting. So yes, as you rightly mentioned, so that the person who is actually using this software should have the skills to think about it, to understand how a project moves, to understand what task should come after what, to understand what is an early start, to understand what is early finish, what is a late start, what is late finish, what is a critical part, how do I load a resource, how do I load a cost, and how eventually I am able to portray and project where my project is heading to. The role of this planner in every project is extremely important. A planner who knows how to operate, who knows how to take out the data, put it across for the management to take important decisions, and then keep the project on track. It's a health check in terms of schedule. This scheduling software actually helps the way we go to a doctor to check our health and parameters. A planner, a right person should be able to give you a health check of your schedule. So that's what my take on the software.
Yeah, Mr. Bhujbal, you have a comment on that.
Sir, you're on mute, sir.
I really appreciate, and all the points are very valid. I'll just give a comment from developers' point of view. I'm as director of Kalpataru Real Estate as well as infrastructure. JMC and Kalpataru Power are doing international project. Kalpataru Power and JMC is also did, for instance, stadiums in Delhi ahead of time and won prize for that. But it is possible for airport project, infrastructure project, where owner has frozen on the design and the timeline has been established. Similarly, in buildings, if it is office building, if there are hotels, when owner knows what is required, established, and going ahead with that. Particularly for a developer of an essential project, developer doesn't know that what is a requirement of sort of residents, although experienced developer also can make mistakes. But for instance, Kalpataru from 2008 is on SAP. And we have, which is out more than 13, 14 years. And before that, we were on ERP, but SAP's MS project is integrated with that. Many of us have got international stint, which are routinely use Primavera.
Absolutely.
We are into building information modeling, but let me come to that but now. Having done all that, very few of it we can use really effectively, fully because of the environment, general industry environment. I was invited a few years ago for building information modeling, a brainstorming session with our top of Tata, myself, Tata Realty, myself, and Iran, etc., etc. They said, what can we do so that this building information modeling, or for instance, MS project or Primavera, could be more useful for you? I said the problem with us is that the baseline is changing, which means that train is moving and platform is also moving. So there is a chaotic situation because of that. At least something has to be stationary. So, we need to improve ourselves. And this I am saying, having got, that was probably in 2017. So we had a bidding information modeling software with us for 8 years earlier. We had training of all architects, planning team in place and all that. And so is an SAP. IBM implemented SAP and everybody's trained, especially in MS project. But external environment restricts developer. This is not an excuse. It's a reality of life. Today, RERA and other things, you need to complete project in time. Customer wants it. RERA, your commitment is there. Your rate is not going to go up. So everybody knows. But unfortunately, in our business, buying a land, getting approval and starting construction is one world, and doing construction is another world. In doing construction, we can relate it to international project way of construction. Most of us, including myself, at 18 years stint, very premium projects abroad. And today, most of our consultants are from US, UK, Singapore, etc., etc. So we are interacting with them. We are taking their inputs with, unfortunately, our limitations. I mean, it's like, I give another example. For instance, Mumbai Pune train is connected. All the bogies are connected. If I start running inside the train, I have to go early. I have to go early and crush people, fight with this, that, and from the last compartment reach first compartment, and reach probably 2 minutes earlier on CST terminus. That kind of a saving, hurry up and wait, that kind of a phase is continuously happening in this project, unfortunately. It should happen or not is different thing. Those intentionally developers delaying is that time has gone. I think after 2008, no developer is doing that because they can't afford. Nobody can afford. Rates are not going up. Land costs are high still. Interest costs are too high. So that's not possible. So not that one sort of doesn't want to do it. One can do it wherever possible. That's why I'm saying hurry up and wait. In this phase, you critically monitor it, and suddenly 4 months you have to wait. And again, you critically monitor it for next 5 months. Again, you have to wait for no control of yours. That's an unfortunate scenario of our industry. But as I completed the infrastructure projects, we have been going and winning awards, etc., using very effectively. So I have got all the 3 experiences of that. For instance, Statue of Unity, L&T only GMC were invited, and of course L&T won the job. But what I'm saying is that stature of project we have been doing internationally or within India. But still, those projects with infrastructure side or airports possible, developers, its own limitations. Although you know everything, we have all the trained people, these that still.
There are all the parameters which needs to be definitely right to, I agree with you. There are a lot of external parameters which project rather than
uncertainties. Too many uncertainties.
But that's the advantage of us being there and trying to control and trying to manage with the available tied up hands and trying to deliver the project. And
maybe the software people need to make a provision of taking care of this in case of an eventuality. How do you make a revised schedule? I don't know.
Software, sir, is an input, right? And the person who's giving the input has to have that, as everyone here is mentioning, has to have that, experience of how to apply.
Exactly.
The application of this is extremely important. I can make a task of say 100 days and say in 100 days I needed 10 resources, and someone who doesn't know the subject, doesn't know even say a simple thing like to install an elevator, you need 3 people or 4 people inside a lift shaft or 2 people inside a lift shaft, and you say that you can still do it in 10 days by putting 10 people. No, I'm just giving a diverse thing. So you need to have a practical experience. You need to have someone who knows the subject, and that is a tool. It's software is a tool, and it can give you output if it's being used properly under varied conditions. So my take is Yes, we need good people, we need trained people, we need right skill set, we need to know the subject, and then we can deliver.
Skill
So,
set becomes very critical.
yeah.
Okay, let's move to something
Just
else.
one more point I want to add, maybe
Yes, sir.
where you can give input, or Mr. Amit can say. We had done one hospital project in Middle East, and the project got delayed for government's fault. And by the time we came back to project, the medical equipments which were already procured became outdated because the technology is moving so.
Changed.
I don't know with the lift industry, if somebody comes with some project has got a temporary halt of a year or two, and then lift material is already in place, and by the time you start installing it, many parts are, or the model is changed or whatever.
Yeah, it's a big problem. It's a big problem.
20 years ago, that problem wasn't there, but today is very much there.
So that's why, sir, when you say that just in time means when my shaft is ready to take the elevator, is the basic principle of all these capital equipments. And Mr. Amit and Mr. Uday have been in this hands in hand, and they know that there is a new launch every year just because of competition, right? And there's a new product which keeps coming. There is an update which is required. Now we have a major issue of happening the elevators which were installed 10 or 15 years back. The spare parts are not available. It's a situation which was not there 10 years back. The spare parts were available even for the elevators which were possibly installed 30 years back, right? But today you don't have spare parts for the last 10 years, and it's already on the process of upgradation. So so just in time principle will apply for all this capital equipment. And for a typical residential project, which invariably in the country goes through this cycle of start, stop, and delivery, irrespective of all good intentions of developers, buyers, stakeholders, but there are cash flows which come, mismanagement, or whatever be the reason, you will have this situation happening. I have not seen a residential project being delivered in time. I'm pretty honest about it in my 18-20 years of experience.
Very true.
Okay, yes, you're absolutely right, Jatin and Mr. Bhujbal. You're absolutely right. This is a problem, and therefore I cannot emphasize more on the just-in-time principle. It's absolutely needed. I mean, coming back to what was said a couple of moments ago about projects getting stalled in between, there are so many on our hands today where the material has come to site many years ago. It has been lying there. The developer is paying through his nose. He's paying heavy extra charges for reconditioning. But, we were asked to give opinion on whether we should go ahead or order new materials. And we said, please order new materials, because however much you do reconditioning, the quality of the final finished product will not be the same, whatever you say. And that is being proven today, because many developers have said, no, we can't afford it. We'll have to go ahead with this. The cost of doing reconditioning is incremental. We will go ahead with it. But the final finished product as it's coming up today is just not meeting the standards of what they'd agreed to buy initially. Correct. It's unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate.
Performance definitely will show it. It will be shown.
I will just add one thing. Fortunately, we had done Parliament House in UAE, where the project got halted. And the requirement of the project, we were contractors, the requirement was we should have air-conditioned stores. So we had all the woodwork brought in, marble, everything, and maintain that air-conditioned stores for 3 years, because then warping shouldn't be there. And then that Parliament House has got 24-hour AC. They may be using 3 days a year, but they will have always because the temperature is maintained exactly as it is. At the store, they wanted right 3 years ahead of the project completion. They wanted this. So if happens with lift, fortunately, I think in lift, maybe sophisticated electronic controls may have hopefully.
Yeah. All this is project management, but at a cost. But who is ready to pay? That is where the whole thing comes. Okay, let me move to Amit. Amit, it's more than a decade where we have seen a very good presence, I would say, of the VHT consultant. But my observation, when I have been in the elevator industry now last more than around 30 years, most of their time, the scope is restricted to pre-project activities, right? Pre-project activities ideally is on paper, it's planning, not very visible. Why do the VHT consultant, if I believe, that's my observation, I may be wrong, why do VHT consultant not become more visible on the project management, which is what is in fact the most important part of project execution? Why are they not so visible? Any reasons for that?
It's an interesting question that you brought up, Uday. Yes, we too have observed this. And we found that over the years, since developers generally have their own in-house engineers or they engage the services of a PMC, and I'm talking with specific regard to tall buildings, large projects where there are multiple units, the level of coordination needed between the various trades involved who would have to interact with the VHT people, like you've got civil, you've got electrical, you've got various others. This is best handled as believed by the developers, by their own PMCs or their in-house engineers, because they're doing this all the time. It is often felt that we would, even if we VHT consultants provided such services, it would be kind of a redundant role, because they don't believe that we can offer, add much value when already there are skilled people to do this kind of work. So that is one of the things. And secondly, from the VHT consultants' point of view, as one of my colleagues has just mentioned on this panel, that there have always been delays and delays and delays. Now, I mean, people have accepted that as part of life. And for a VHT consultant, to be very frank, these delays hurt like it hurts the developer, because, you know, in financial terms, you're losing money. You can't really afford to provide a service after 5 years, because you don't really know what the costs, etc., will be after a certain period of time. And therefore, you'll find that VHT consultants tend to sort of back away from this, because they don't want to really be seen treading on anybody's toes. You know, there is a PMC from the developer side. There are the lift companies have their own systems, processes. They have their own in-house project management to manage the project. Where the VHT consultant really does help is in two parts. One, he should be monitoring vis-a-vis the schedule that is given and raising the red flags in good time proactively by regular site visits, meetings, documenting all the findings. At the same time, where the VHT consultant really comes in is at the end for the final check, because that's when the proof of the pudding is in the eating. That's when you will be seeing that what was committed and what was agreed to be provided is actually provided. And that's where the VHT consultant really kicks in. That's been our experience so far.
Yeah, that is basically what you're saying is like a last check or audit kind of a situation. But the more important part is what is done or mistakes done or things not done. I would not say mistakes done, things not done right during project execution. It becomes very difficult to reverse it. So keeping that in mind, I'm just trying to look or imagine whether it is practical. In fact, this question would be to Mr. Pillai and Mr. Bhujbal, who have been actually hands-on. Do you think revisiting the VHT consultants' role and getting them involved more into the project execution stage, does that make sense? Will it make the developer's life more easy? Mr. Pillai, I start with you. Do you think it will make me more easy?
Sir, I should really thank the panelists here, my peers, raising up issues, what is core issues of the projects, especially now Mr. Amit talking about the consultant's role, why they are not present during the construction as a project manager. My observation is basically the project management in construction industry for residential buildings specifically goes hand in gloves with the civil construction, the MEP as one package. So the project manager who is taking responsibility is fighting and finding difficulties between this team. I think it is very, very essential that is already noted here, a planning, scheduling, MS project or Primavera, putting on paper and monitoring. It is only a paperwork that we created in the beginning as a planning, then we put forward as a master schedule with respect to completion of the project. I deliver this product at this point of time. That is my commitment. Maybe Ujjwal was mentioning about RERA is one of the criteria that we are all abide by because we are scared they will penalize a lot of action plan if you don't deliver in time. Besides that, the developer invested a huge money. Consider all situation is in favor and we have to deliver in time. Even in that situation, the industry, the elevator industry is a big scarcity for any developer because Amit ji ne just mentioned they have their own set of management within the industry. They follow that. At the time of finalization, that is in the contractual format, how this contractor, how this vendor has to perform from the design, shop drawing, approvals, and till the delivery. What is his deliverables time to time, milestone fixed, and there is no clarity, then no consultants, no project managers on this earth can control the lack of coordinations and delay in delivery. So my observation in this particular product, we all agreed one point that elevator is a problem for any project. Considering that, how we can fix this issue, you rightly pointed out consultant's role because the expertise from execution point of view, elevator industry, because I'm seeing the consultant today available in the market is white collar job. They don't want to stand behind the execution phase at site and spoil their dress. There is no people available on that level. Otherwise, unlike civil engineers, PMC consultancy taken and the engineers are on job, execution, supervision. So the supervisory level management from the PMC point of view, vertical transportation consultancy is not available. If available, I am the first person committing that I will appoint tomorrow. I want such services because I see, like everybody see, we are suffering for the timely delivery of the elevators in the industry. Now, the point goes back to the contracts. The vendor will say, this is my schedule, everything linked to one another. He will take small excuses which you can't even imagine. They will say this is delayed and now the third level approval of something is held. Because of that, the production stage itself is held. So you get so much excuses in the industry for not delivering things in time. And I think there is no committed or accountable people as a leader from the product line, that is the elevators company. There is nobody because there is always we are dealing with a good branded company and they are established like a corporate culture. They must have a different verticals for marketing, execution itself, three, four different verticals. So all these guys getting together under one person as a project manager. If this guy also just taking excuses, not able to deliver, then he will definitely give priority to the excuses. So ultimately the project suffer. So despite you are providing experienced, trained technicians on site, there is a deficiency, but still the company can ensure that they are my people like Schindler Elevators. Now you promised lot of project that, I have my own in-house trained people, so I don't depend on the contractor. That's a very added value that the company is providing and ensuring, and we get the confidence. Yes, this company will provide what they agreed, they promised. But here the experience, the planning we did, everything goes haywire unless we see and use the experience of the industry, how that is being suffered, how it is being collapsed, how it is being delayed, why we are not delivered in time. Get all that experience into one area and see how we can tackle these issues. I think that is very essential. To an extent, having certain experience that we already have from the previous projects that we did, coming to all together, we say understanding the elevators company's requirement, how they perform from the production, what is the time, that is a lead time required, what is the site hinges, difficulties that they are facing, because somebody working in the shop, he will complain all of a sudden, hey, some debris falling from the top, some water is falling from the top, I cannot work inside the shop. So there are excuses, there are real reasons. All that together, we need to tap, we need to stop. For that, we need a remedial measures or precautionary measures or in advance planning and making sure they will not get disturbed. If that is ensured, then again, they are going something fishy with what is promised is not happening because the delivery of material is not done. Maybe the person who is making shop drawing and giving order, some parts are not reached. Maybe those parts reached, but it is misplaced. Maybe small reason within the elevators company people's performance without having proper understanding or accountability or experience or maybe casual approach, we as a project will suffer. So we have to fix all those things with a proper consultancy. I think it is one of the most important need of the day for any project. We all accept there is a delay. I think this speciality services professional consultancy is must for the execution.
So I agree with you, Mr. Bill. So it's a good thing that you are needing this person, whether it is a VHT consultant or a project manager. End of the day, I think my experience has been wherever there have been very strong project managers, the success of the project is much better as compared. In fact, I would request Mr. Bhujbal, because he has handled projects in India as well as projects abroad, which our perception is the project managers there are always professional or well-versed. They handle things a little better than what it is in India. The conditions, even though there are delays happening because of the government approvals and stuff like that, still the project manager, I would say, if he is strong, the heartburns are much lesser, including it may be small thing like, okay, small but an important thing, like if the debris is falling, there's someone from the safety side has to be pulled up, penalized, or whatever it is, but a call has to be taken. So the project manager becomes like a god for us in execution of the project. So do all of you all agree to this, Mr. Bhujbal? In fact, with your experience abroad and India, what would be your take on this?
I quite agree with what you have been saying, and also sort of a little going further on what Mr. Pillai has said. But the main question was what could be a role of VHT consultant, which industry is looking. Seeing from Kalpataru's point of view, we had early days, I think Mr. Matthews, Tech Matthews. You know, that was early. I mean, that was, but I think that time selection of the lift and this and that was very useful. Later on, Kalpataru developed its own team, and we have our own routers, which we train people and all that. But still, what Mr. Pillai is saying is take further. Let us say we identify a scope of work for VHT consultant, which developer would like to have. Stage one, design stage, they come and identify, advise on number of elevators, do traffic analysis, or get it done from lift manufacturer and wait it. Like Mr. Tech Matthews used to say in those years that it was imported lift, and he said that Japanese people, Mitsubishi, did a traffic analysis, but they considered only number of people living in the flat. And in India, at least double number of people, drivers or days, come and visit. But that aspect has been sorted out now by a national building code in design, because floating population, fixed population norms have been given. But assuming that that particular aspect is help to developers. Secondly, when actual interacting, drafting a contract with a lift manufacturer, this concern is present. and advising developer about the clauses, because developer signs on the standard order which is given by lift manufacturer. All their contracts, it is developer who drafts the contract and sort of makes subcontractor agree. Only in this case, he just signs on lift manufacturers, whatever he says is, no, this is our standard condition, you have to accept that. So, and then if the material is delayed or these and that, so here VHT consultant can sort of, I won't use the word arbitrator, but coordinator who can say, maybe, yeah, this is genuine problem. You allow 2 months more. They are saying you can tell developer, you are asking this delivery in 15 months time itself is extraordinary. So you should allow for 18 months. If you don't have 18 months, at least can you look at another technology so that the delivery is faster? You want lift machine room and these and all. I don't want to go to the nitty-gritties of that, but that advice could be given both to developer that if you want in time real in 15 months, look at this technology or look at this supplier. I mean, definitely they can, I'm not taking anybody's side, he would say, but this supplier today, the hands are not full, they can help you. I'm talking about all the top brands. They can help you. That's one part. During execution, they can have a periodical inspection of verticality of the shaft because their expertise from lift manufacturer, what they would be looking for. So they will be their eyes of lift manufacturing, so to say, and they will give a side instruction that please correct this, please correct that. Look at, maybe they can visit once in 50 days and once in a month or something like that, and ensure, or they will write to developers that and maybe copy to lift manufacturer, your shaft is delayed by 3 months. So the lift delivery is coming. So what do you want to do? So it is hands-on with actual execution. Then actually the material comes, then okay, they are doing their work, but still helping the manufacturer's installation, etc., telling developer these are the things, although lift manufacturer has given that, but before we arrive, these things should be in place. So ensure that developer has done that. Give them a month earlier, visit them, say that, okay, you should have done this. Facilitating this process and then hand-holding kind of thing. Probably Mr. Pillai's, because Mr. Pillai or myself, we have to done of hundreds of things, and when we actually get stuck, lift is a problem. What do we do? So if it is simultaneously those things are getting sorted out, and with the expertise like VHT, and then the handing over and PWD certificate, etc., just their presence. This routinely happens. It will take 30 days. This lift supplier may be saying 15 दिन में लाता हो, but नहीं होगा 15 दिन में. Allow 30 days. Please don't be sort of too ambitious and make your plan based on realistic timelines. VHT consultant can definitely give that input, which would be very valid. See, I'm not saying anybody is lying. I'm saying generally for business reasons, lift supplier will give the best scenario. Yes, I'll do something, but deliver this in this much time. It happens everywhere. I remember, I think once I went to Dubai, and then Mitsubishi's head was telling me, we knew we were more friends. I said, I'm committing yes to taken this order. I don't know how I'm going to deliver this. Some sort of excuse will come up, and then we will see. Project will get delayed, it could be rescheduling of manufacturing, etc. Something will happen, he said. So, you know, like those hats, person is sort of like magician. Similarly, to be in a business, lifts manufacturers, suppliers would be doing that, but VHT consultant could sort of give that input, and there could be value. So it is not just only in design stage or handover stage. Through Mr. Pillai, am I telling correctly that this is absolute hand-holding? If it happens, the value is substantial. That's what Mr. Pillai said. Today, I am prepared to, because we still have in Kalpataru planning department who is experienced or project manager with us for last 25 years. Project manager is just a role we are saying. The designation could be vice president or whatever. But he's there, so he knows. He has already 8 projects experience with him. He knows what to be seen. But still, VHT consultant with new technology, with new projects, with taller bidding coming up, and with challenging timelines, VHT consultants' input would be very, very useful.
So what I can say from concluding from what everyone has been talking about, a good team of a strong project manager And VHT consultant, I like the way you said he acts as an arbitrator because he has a knowledge of the elevator industry in and out, in terms of the deliverables, in terms of products, everything would make a good team and make the main developers or the person whoever is handling from the developer side his life more easy. Do you think a strong team of a good project manager and a VHT consultant acting as an arbitrator during all stages of the project? Because many times, at a planning stage, if things are not done right, they have always some kind of after effects coming at a later date, and people start blaming, no, we should have done this. Like you gave an example of Kalpataru synergy, I suppose, right? Where it was not planned, 4 elevator this side, 4 elevator that side, and then later
Well,
on.
that time we knew, sorry, Uday, that time we knew that we should provide 8 at one location, but business considerations,
So,
technical understanding one part, and business considerations sort of
I am
deferred.
looking at VHT consultant putting his foot down and saying, sorry, no, this is what should have been done. Otherwise, making the owner or whoever took that decision realize that this may probably not good decision, could have helped to some extent. I'm just trying to imagine. I don't know. This is what probably is help. Yeah, Jatin, you wanted to say something? You raise your hand.
Just to add to the point of monitoring, I also want to add that VHT consultant also actually plays a very important role at the time of commissioning and handling. Because the review of the installation which has been done by the vendor, the VHT consultant is actually playing a very important role in part of the entire project gamut and cycle, where he can actually gauge before an actual usage based on his experience that whether the installation is right. That's one aspect I just wanted to touch base on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jatin. I think Amit also specifically mentioned initially. It's something like probably getting, I think, okay, like an audit kind of a thing. Yeah. Okay, let me move to a question to practically, I would like to address all of.
I have something to say, sir.
Yeah, Mr.
Can I? Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before you go ahead, I just wanted to add my view here. We are talking about consultancy. We are talking about a lot many things under the PM. See, my view here is something different, something slightly different. I am not looking at as a consultant, somebody I am looking at a project manager. See, I got a project of high altitude. I am seeing in a project as a project head, a project manager is there, but I have so many head of department as a GM for plumbing, firefighting, electrical, HVAC, and finishing level, blah, 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 blah. So I look at one more head of department under elevators. Why? The consultants are from the industry, sourced out of their experience they are sharing. I want somebody that is like safety. There is a training given by the authority, like state government, and they have to get the understanding of what are the safety norms in the industry, maybe residential building or industrial building. Similarly, from the elevator industry, if we can get trained people about the product, see the gap is here between the project manager as a construction friend and the technical friend as a elevator vendor. There is a big gap of understanding. To close this gap, we need to get a trained elevator personnel who also understand civil work and the construction work. So there is a civil engineer who can be trained, especially for the vertical transportation from the product point of view, and get educated, who can manage the project, not as a consultant, as an employee. He will get preference. Today, you get trained people for maintenance. Why don't we look at a civil engineer getting trained under the vertical transportation?
So what we are saying is, if VHT consultants team has a civil engineer who is trained into this,
see, today we have that team available to us. I am saying an opportunity for civil engineers to expand their expertise. See, civil engineer, I am looking at one person taking care of all the aspects of project construction. He has to understand with his common sense what is plumbing and firefighting, even if there is no engineer belongs to that area. So he can also get trained for the vertical transportation, which is actually a need of the day to day, because every project is suffering the delay and coordination problems because the understanding is not there. The communication is not getting completed.
It will be a good idea to have that gentleman, but
That's what,
all
that's
other
my point. Yes.
consultants come and audit the final installation.
Because we have consultants. See, today I'm not saying the consultants doing their job in a very specific white collar area, according to me. Also, they are doing audit even if the old building or completed project for handing over. But during construction, actually, as a project director, I am really facing a big problem because I don't have a hands-on who understand the technical of the elevators and also civil engineering, because it's a gelling between these two. There's a big gap. I don't have anybody to connect that.
Yeah, in fact, in fact, you have, Mr. Pillai, you answered the question which I was just going to ask.
Also, okay.
Yeah, because project manager in terms of delivering real value against the business opportunity is the most critical thing. So my question was, which you already answered, which are the challenges faced by the developers and vertical transportation industry player in bringing all the elements together, the experience and expertise. This is what probably has to be brought on the table for the execution of the project. This is where I think what you are talking about, unless they are expertise, they have the expertise, like you said, someone who knows civil engineering, someone who knows why it is important to have the plumbness of the shaft absolutely right, just to be more specific. At the same time, then the elevator guy doesn't have an excuse. Your shaft is out of plumb by so many and I will need to probably modify the brackets or modify the material, while the civil engineer says, what can I do? I use the best method. I use the Mayan method or whatever method, but still your shaft became a little bit of a leaning tower of Pisa. So all those heartburns will be all gone if there is a strong guy. And in fact, what Mr. Bhujbal rightly said, a team of vertical transportation as an arbitrator to handle that problem, but right from the A to Z stage, and a strong project manager may be a solution, but they have to be expertise, they have to be experience. Without experience, we cannot, the project manager on paper doesn't help. You may have handled 10 projects, but if he doesn't have the hands-on experience of handling things at site, it can be even simple like city of Mumbai, South Mumbai, Mr. Pillai, and will know getting materials also to high metros. Metro people are facing so much problem getting escalators to sites and keeping them on the road. All that is a hell lot of a planning, and we need a right guy who has experience on that front. This is what I feel. I don't know. It's a really gray area, but yes, it's a major
True. So it's the
opportunity for
right point.
everyone
Yes.
of us.
Yes.
Everyone
So
of
the
us.
project managers means they are already having qualification and experience, and they are getting trained under a special area of elevators and escalators as a technical friend and the requirement of their installations. That is what my point was. So it is
Correct.
not
Agree.
necessarily a school boy or college boy out of engineering directly goes to a training and come to project. He has to have a project experience like an MBA if
Correct.
somebody want to get expertise for management.
It should not paper experience, hands-on experience.
Hands-on
Okay,
experience.
let me move to the last question of the session. This is to all the panelists. We go one by one. Looking back at the past 12 months and the lessons learned during pandemic, what are the key takeaways from the project management perspective? Let us start probably with Jatin, Mr. Bhujbal, Amit, and then Mr. Pillai.
To be ready for unforeseen situations and to have the courage to take decisions during these unforeseen conditions, and talk to your vendors, talk to your suppliers, talk to your developers as a project management professional, and make them understand what is important at that moment and what can be planned. It's all about planning, and it's all about having courage to communicate properly. It's all about taking everything together and be prepared. It will happen. Unforeseen situations will keep happening, and it's how the things are going to happen. It's not that we are in an industry where everything is on a press of button. So be prepared for it. That's the biggest takeaway. And have a plan B. Have a plan A, have a plan B, and have a plan C. Then work on.
Something they do in military. Always have a backup plan.
Yes,
plan
always
B.
have a plan B.
It works very well. Yeah, Mr. Bhujbal.
Yeah, I can't agree with Mr. Jatin more, because it's very true. We have learned a lot of things, I think, and impact of this tremors of this will be felt this year and the next year as well. I mean, it's not over as yet. Uncertainty, yes, and it gets translated into money. I mean, you make a big loss and few other things. Coming back to, can we use more technology? Will it happen? I think this is necessity is mother of invention. In construction, we have to go to site and sort of do execution. You can't work from home. But slowly, type of construction, precasting, or few other things slowly come to forefront. I'm not 3D printing, etc. I have not touched those areas. But what I'm saying is that technology, more less work on site. If we progress in that direction, which is happening in other countries, then I think we are looking for a different kind of scenario, and may not be tomorrow. And I'm not still talking about the use of robotics, etc., which in small way it is being used elsewhere. And unpredictability, as it is, we had, we don't have a mature industry in construction. In Middle East and other countries, there's a mature industry in the sense you order X, Y material and they commit something, it will come in that particular time and it will be of that quality. You don't have to again you can still have a pre-shipment inspection, all that, just as a caution. But to keep the name, their own name, they would sort of send it. We still have to have that kind of scenario, and particularly with COVID, it is have disturbed more. Those genuinely wanted to deliver in time also have problems, and in many support areas. And as we were talking before start of this formal discussion, that this is new normal. But the new normal is also going to change. Sorry, I'll take 2 minutes. Alvin Toffler was a great, who wrote his Future Shock in 1970. And he said, and which is still true, and it's getting more and more true, he said, his theory was about futurology. He said a rate of change. The rate of change is going to increase, which means there's something which new technology came in 30 years. His philosophy used as human being took 5,000 years for wheels, then it took 200 years for industrial revolution, then 50 years for a computer revolution, then 10 years for telecom revolution. And it is going to have all impact that we ourselves predicting expectation of customer is going to get changed. Within two brothers or sisters of 5 years of gap, have a generation gap. It's going to happen. It's going to happen further. So it is going to have impact. So I used to say in many seminars, fortunately, I'm in the industry that home models change in 10 years, car model change in 1 year, and mobile model change every month.
Every month.
So fortunately, I am in fairly traditional industry, but still that comforting is going to go. You are saying that people will be looking for bigger houses, and plus affordable. So go away from this. So many things is going to happen. In one of the seminars, I was asked to see, are you going to have a modular house? Somebody wants one room added. Can it happen in the same building? Will the planning will facilitate that? Will there be a spare? Future developers would be doing that. So there are so many things could happen, and we could just imagine. But talking still of Alvin Toffler, I think the rate of change is going to be so faster that to cope up with that for any industry is going to be a challenge, and we have to sort of look at that. Yeah, and COVID-19 has accelerated that process.
Correct. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bhujbal. Amit?
I agree with what Mr. Bhujbal said, and we are already seeing the rate of change is so fast. Whether we look at, when we look at the elevator industry and we look at what are the new things that are coming, the lift companies bringing in new products and all that. And one of the comments made earlier about the non-availability of spares for equipment that was supplied some 5-10 years ago. These are all realistic challenges. The point about restarting and what have we learned from the pandemic in the last 12 months? Well, the biggest challenge that developers are facing was that the projects were shut down very quickly very rapidly during when the lockdowns, etc., were announced. And obviously, proper records of where they were not kept. And so revival is taking longer than expected. And compounding that is the fact that there's obviously extra work, reconditioning, etc., which is taking time. And obviously, there's a cost added to it. That you can't get away from that. So the learnings are that unless we streamline our processes and really have a total grip or a handle on how we're going about it and tracking it, only then can we seem to be able to, will we be able to get back to some sort of a methodical way of working. And these are all the learnings that we have to have so that the future is much smoother and we will be able to keep up with the rate of change that is anticipated.
Okay, thank you, Amit. Mr. Pillai?
Yes, I think, sir, all three has already shared very good examples, and it is very, very valued. And I think we appreciate Bhujbal sir, Amit sir, and Mr. Jatin. What I say in one word, uh, we always prepare for the best and regular things. Okay, we planned and it happens in the business, in our life, and we also must prepare for the worst, not only the best always. We have learned because of the pandemic, it can happen in a different way as an emergency out of our imaginations. It is a risk. Okay. So whatever that experience we had so far, we prepare for that. And today we have to take it the worst also, we have to get prepared for that. Also, I think pandemic is an opportunity. We have to take it positively. Take the situation as an opportunity. Amitji said, okay, restarting a lot, hell of situations, and many people brought down from the market, they have vanished. And all the industry across the globe, they are suffering. Considering all that, knowing all this fact, I think we should get this situation as an opportunity to rediscover and change in our belief system. Whatever that we believed, we have to keep changing. That's it. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, I'll just try to summarize. It's a very, very interesting discussion. I think we discussed or argued, in fact, on many of the challenges we are facing in the industry today from the project management perspective. But what I would say the basic takeaways is a strong project manager. And this is a new thing, arbitrator, probably VHT gets into the role of arbitrator. It's a very interesting thing. It's worth looking at. Probably this is for Amit to take away. Softwares, something which we need to get and use those tools, not only use the tools, but train the people who are using the tools. We cannot have, there is always a saying, you give this thing to a monkey, he will not do the things right. But he need to have everyone trained on every software, which are very, very effective tools. And the most important part is, how do you handle the uncertainties in the market due to whatever reason, pandemic, the government regulations, stuff like that. All these things are very important for project management. But what is more important is all of us in the industry working as a team, carrying forward and solving the problems rather than telling, sorry, boss, it is your problem and this is not my problem. Having that attitude will probably be more important. And in fact, Amit, I agree with Mr. Bhujbal. The vertical transport and VHT consultant should look at this role as arbitrator, which becomes most important to settle, I would not say settle these issues, but at least see the heartburns are much at a lesser level. Not the blame game is not there. Having said that, thank you very much. And I would request the organizer, Anita, if she's available to come in and say the final word.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm very much available here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was really, really interesting to hear all of you and a lot of experience shared here. You know, very interesting and frank point of views. I definitely also my takeaway is that, that everybody together, all stakeholders needs to have a collaborative effort is what the outcome of the discussion is. And this is really interesting going forward. What we've seen in the last 1 year, how business scenarios have changed. I think the perspectives will also change. So thank you so much for being here, and I really thank you for being and sharing your own opinions on all the questions asked. And I'm sure that this will be a great learning for everyone. These the recordings will be there in our website for many days to come. So people who have not been able to join also can take away from this at a later date too. So thank you so much, and look forward to meeting you all very soon again.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Uday, for being a great moderator.
Thank you, Anita.
Yeah,
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Anita.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank you so
thanks
much.
everyone. Thanks, Uday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, sir,
Bye-bye.
and bye.
Bye-bye.